Okay, so let's react to. I wrote every MRT in Singapore and rate them rock. Okay, that's a cool one. Okay, let's start.
Hello everyone, so today I'm going to be embarking on another serious mission. I mean, it's not really serious this time, but it's another mission. I'm going to be riding every single MRT line in Singapore, including LRTs and all the 6 MRT lines. So I'll be riding all of them and I'll be rating all the trains. So it's basically my MRT testing videos in Roblox, but not in real life.
This video got viral. I think this is the first viral video.
Alright, so starting off, we have the Thomson East Coast Line,
Okay.
which is currently the newest one in the Singapore Rail network.
I
As for
wrote
the
that.
first impressions, the cabin has decently comfortable seats. I wouldn't say it's the best, but it's good. However, the 5-door configuration of the cars meant that there will be lesser seats for everyone, which is kind of upsetting because it means that we will have to stand most of the time.
Good luck. Because
I don't really like the door closing sound. It's not something that is very, very comfortable. There are headlights in the train and in the tunnel to see where you're going, I guess. Which is cool. I think it's something that most people will enjoy looking at.
I mean,
the air
it's
conditioning
good.
on this train is moderately strong and it also has a nice smell. Well, another good point is that the doors open really quickly the moment the train stops, which is good. It saves us some time. However, the train itself is really noisy. I'm pretty sure it was even worse on the day it was open, but now it's gotten a little bit better, but still pretty noisy.
I mean,
the station
it's
designs are
okay.
really modern looking. I mean, because it is the newest, but even the small details like LED lights and just small intricate designs of the station really just brighten up the atmosphere.
I mean, yeah,
and the
it's
last
brighten.
complaint I have is that the station exit signs are bad. I don't know who was the one who thought this was a good idea, because all you see now in the MRT stations are these little paper signs that will tell you where the exits actually lead you to. So yeah, really bad. Despite all of that, I will still give the Thomson East Coast Line an 8 upon 10, as the station designs and the train interior really just impressed me. Stopping at Woodlands MRT station, we had to transfer to the North-South line, Singapore's first MRT line ever. Well, the first thing I noticed was definitely the fact that it was way softer compared to the Thomson one. I mean that's because it is outdoors, so most of the sound is drowned out by surrounding noise. But even when it's underground, it's still decently silent. Good enough, I guess. The announcements are, well, they're classic and they're also really sharp. I feel like the seats are the most comfortable of all the lines. They're also pretty wide. The air conditioning is average. It's not really cool at all, actually. I feel like you can sweat after you sit in there for a while. The train doesn't have a smell though, which is strange, but I mean it's good. Oh, and the interior is also nice and bright. But the stations are dark, but I can forgive that because it is old. There's nothing too special or extraordinary about the North-South line stations and the trains. It just gets the job done. So I would give it a 7 upon 10. Next up, we proceeded on to the Bukit Panjang LRT. This was actually my first LRT experience. I've never taken an LRT before because I do not live in Choa Chu Kang, but at least my friend was familiar with LRTs. Anyways, it was really a hell of an experience. As for first impressions, the stations are quite gloomy and just have dull colors. And the same applies for the cabin itself. We did ride the first generation of the LRT car, but the ride itself was definitely the worst of all the lines I've ever taken. It's so bumpy and the acceleration and braking are so violent. It actually gets quite nauseating, especially with all the twists and turns on the tracks. It really felt like a roller coaster. Due to the shaky carriage, people really couldn't stand properly. Everyone kept falling all over the place. Well, not falling, they just couldn't balance themselves. For some reason, there was no announcements. I'm not sure if it was broken, but I find it to be a bit unsafe, especially when there's no door closing announcement. The air conditioner was very weak, even though the carriage was so small. The interior of the cabin is so dim, and it just doesn't feel nice at all being inside. Oh, and the smart glass, the famous glass that censors itself whenever it goes past HDB blocks. Yeah, it's cool in the media, but every single glass pane was broken. We could not see the outside at all. So I really cannot find many good points about the LRT system. I guess it's good if you want to get from one place to another in a short time, but still, the LRT is so unreliable, it just doesn't make sense for the people to build it in the first place. So I will give the Bukit Panjang LRT a 4 out of 10. I really did not enjoy the ride.
It's not.
After such a harrowing experience with the Bukit Panjang LRT, it was time to move on to the nearby downtown line. Station designs are very nice. Not as nice as the Thomson line, but you can tell the effort was put in. The first thing that hit me was the very strange plane smell in the station and in the train. You know that smell when you go into an aircraft? Yeah, it was present throughout the entire station. But on the outside, the cabin was much brighter and also a lot more lively, but the stations could use a little bit more light. The train also has headlights to see the tunnel. Yeah, not as bright as the Thomson one, but they were the first to have lights, I think. Another observation is that the train moves off really quickly once the door closes, and the door closing siren is much more soothing to the ears compared to the Thomson one. As for the route display on top of the doors, I feel like the arrows could flash way before the train arrives at the station, because right now the arrows to indicate which side the door opens only flash a few moments before the train arrives at the station. So unless you ride the downtown line very often, it's quite hard to predict which side you're going off. The air conditioning of the cabin, well, it's not very strong, but it's good enough. And the train is mostly very quiet, even though it's underground. Only sometimes there were a few loud moments. So even though the downtown line train is already more than 11 years old, it still feels fairly new and there was not much discoloring to the station or anything. I don't think they should change something that's already perfect. So I will rate the downtown line at 8 upon 10. Stopping at Botanic Gardens, we went to change to the Circle Line. The first thing that really hit me the moment I walked through the linkway was the very old station smell it had. Strangely, it's not as smelly as the airplane smell in the downtown line, but it may get annoying if you were to sit in there for a very long time. The stations are also a bit dim like the downtown line because they're using fluorescent lights, and it just does not feel new. Heck, the Northeast line even feels a little bit newer compared to the Circle Line, even though it was debuted before the Circle Line. Well, as for the train, the announcements are quite blur for some reason, I don't know why. It's just muffled. The air conditioning though is extremely strong, and I like it. It keeps you very comfortable throughout the entire ride. We did ride the first version of the Circle Line train, which is the C830, so there is no route display, which can be a little bit annoying. The announcements though are very precise and I like it. The train ride is quite loud, but it's still smooth, not very bumpy. Sometimes the acceleration and the braking can be a little bit sudden. Now this has nothing got to do with the stations or the train, but why is the Circle Line always so crowded? I kind of feel like they underestimated how many people were actually going to utilize the Circle Line. That's why they opted for 3 carriages, and I don't think that was a very good idea actually. Another observation is that sometimes the train leaves the station a little bit too quickly. Not sure why, but I mean it's good in some sense to make the ride slightly more efficient, and there are no headlights so you can't see the tunnels inside. Well, in summary, the Circle Line is a nice line, but it just feels a little bit old. So just like the North-South line, it just gets the job done, nothing to be amazed about. So I will give it a 6.5 upon 10.
Kind of right, but
Next,
still.
we decided to change to the East-West line. Not decided, I mean it was only the East-West line to change to. Well, it's quite similar to the North-South line, so I wouldn't really talk too much about it. The first thing is that it's crowded. I don't know why, but can't sit down. And it wasn't even peak hour. Well, we did ride a different train, so I can rate it a little bit differently. And it smells funny. Just like the airplane smell in the downtown line, but even worse this time. I don't know, man. Maybe I just have a problem breathing. So everything is almost the same as the North-South line, but I would prefer the newer train I rode on the North-South line. The view is nice though, I can say that, but it's much more shaky. I don't know why, but it's just more shaky. So in conclusion, the East-West line is almost the same as the North-South line, so I will also give it a 7 upon 10. Okay guys, hang in there, we're almost done. So the second last line that we took was the Northeast line. Stations are fine, but the first thing that really bothered me was the fact that there were no train waiting times. I don't know if there was a glitch on that system, but it's quite strange because that's just the basic thing that you need to accomplish. And another observation is that it is so crowded. I don't know why. Well, the train is bright and the coloring is fine, it's fine. The announcements are a little bit blur and quite inconsistent though, and I think that's my least favorite part of the Northeast line. The announcements are very muffled, and sometimes the chime is pitched lower than usual, and I don't know man, it's just inconsistent. Oh, and the train is very loud too. The braking and the acceleration is the worst of all. Actually no, Bukit Panjang is still the worst, but it's still quite harsh for an MRT train. The door closing sound effects is fine, but I feel like it's a little bit unsafe because it just happens without warning. There's no prior chime to notify the people that the door is about to close. The map system is basic and good enough, and the carriage is mostly stable, especially when it's in motion. Not much shaking at all, it's just the acceleration and the braking is harsh. Well, the Northeast line is a little bit short, it's so crowded all the time, and I feel like it could have a lot more potential though. The announcements will be the first thing that I'll fix because it's just not nice. So the Northeast line is gonna get a 6 upon 10 for me because there's just nothing exciting about this station. Kind of mundane, and they couldn't even get the basics right, like nice announcements and train waiting times. And finally, for the last one is the Punggol LRT. We decided to go for the West Loop because I just wanted to visit a station I always wanted to. The station feels much more lively, which is a big improvement compared to the Bukit Panjang one. First impressions, the interior of the cabin is dim. Well, as for the train, despite it going at pretty high speeds, it's moderately stable. Anyways, I only took this LRT because I wanted to visit this station called Teck Lee, which, if you all don't know, is just an LRT station that never was opened despite it being built almost 13 years ago. But still, I don't understand why the train must stop at that station for a few seconds. You're wasting people's time, man. Well, despite how good the LRT is, I would still much rather take the bus because it's a hassle to enter the station, walk up the stairs, wait for the train, where you can just take the bus and it saves so much more time. The announcements are good, but a little bit soft, but still not the worst thing in the world. And the air conditioning is very good, but that's what I expect for such a small cabin. So the Punggol LRT is gonna get a 7 upon 10 for me. A much bigger improvement compared to the Bukit Panjang one. And on that note, this concludes the vlog of me riding on every single MRT line in Singapore. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next vlog or video. Goodbye everyone.
Okay.